Hello everybody and welcome to Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you guys are looking for PTC geocodes, including the latest set Evolving Skies, make sure you head over to the Potown store where you can get 5% off your order using code Omnipoke. Today we are going to be taking a look at the full Fusion Arts set. Obviously I did a bit of a summary when some of the cards were first revealed, and I've kind of been giving some of my initial thoughts over on Twitter and here and there on videos. As the set's been released, but now we have the full set as of yesterday. So basically I've had all day to think about some of these cards. I've chatted with Joe about these cards as well. I've gone through and made a load of English scans. I'll leave a link to them in the description so you can start testing basically whenever you want. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting set. Obviously we have this new fusion, this battle style Fusion Strike, which is going to change things up a bit. I think it's definitely as powerful as Rapid and Single Strike, so yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes things up. We're going to kick things off with the trainers, of course, though, because obviously they give us a bit of context as to how a lot of these cards fit together. Starting things off with Cross Receiver. So Cross Receiver is an item. You have to play 2 Cross Receiver at once to get the effect, similar to sort of like a Custom Catcher or a Puzzle of Time. And the effect of 2 Cross Receivers is put a Pokemon or supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So it's kind of like a buffed / nerfed VS Seeker or a buffed / nerfed Rescue Stretcher. Obviously, being able to get a supporter back is very powerful. We haven't seen anything really from the, I think it was Welcoming Lantern that gets back specifically a Single Strike supporter. Hasn't really seen play, but this can get any supporter, so that's pretty interesting. I think it's quite slow, and I think in a format with things like Research, it's going to be pretty annoying because you're going to be discarding these throughout the game, and you know, you probably realistically will only get one of the full effect of Cross Receiver. Unfortunately, these don't have use as a single piece like the Custom Catchers or Puzzles of Time did, so they're a little bit worse in that regard, which is unfortunate. That makes them a little bit less consistent, which is a shame, or like at least not like dead weight. These are just dead weight if you don't have to at the same time, which is a shame. And I'm really not sure where these are going to fall. To be honest, I don't think they're going to be powerful enough, just because in a format where we need to be researching, we have Eldegoss already. We have Rod for Pokemon Recovery, plus another couple of random Pokemon Recovery here and there. We need to be researching, we need to be bossing, we need to be Marnieing. I think it's going to be quite hard to pair these cross receivers up. One thing that does interest me, though, is in things like Inteleon engines, obviously you can tutor these out with Drizzile and Inteleon, and I think that may potentially push these into play in some Inteleon engines, maybe some of the slower ones, just because you can build these combos, these pieces, a little bit easier than certain other decks. I think obviously in basically any deck that isn't an Inteleon engine, I think you're probably going to struggle to play these and get them both in your hand at the same time. But there is, I think, a chance in Inteleon engines, and like I say, it's going to be weird because we're going to lose Drizzile and Inteleon at the same time we lose, currently, providing no reprints, we lose Research, Marnie, and Boss. And I feel like Research, Marnie, and Boss are kind of holding Cross Receiver back because they're the kind of pace setters of the format. They're the supporters that are really making this format quite fast. And these cards, I think, benefit from a slightly slower format. So when we lose those, we'll also lose Drizzile. And when we lose Drizzile, this will get naturally worse. So I think it's really unfortunate. This probably won't see too much play. But I'm willing to be wrong about this because it basically is VS Seeker in a 2-card combo. So there's obviously going to be potential for it. You have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, I think at least to me, the standout place for this is going to be in like an Inteleon style deck. And that's similar for Cross Switcher as well. Cross Switcher has the same text. You have to play 2 copies at once, and it lets you switch the opponent's bench Pokemon with one of their active Pokemon, and then switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So it's essentially a Guzma, but you have to play both at the same time. I think this one is a little bit stronger, just because you have the switch effect and the gusting effect. So you can, to make space for these cards, you can start to eat into things like maybe one of your switch counts and one of your boss counts can make up 2 spaces. So then you actually have to only find 2 spaces for Cross Switcher, whereas Cross Receiver, I guess, could take a space of like, I I don't know, a Rod and an Eldegoss perhaps. Maybe that's a similar kind of thing. But yeah, I feel this is slightly more splashable. I think the effect is also slightly stronger. Obviously, getting any supporter is great, but I think being able to Gust plus Switch without the use of a supporter is crazy good, obviously. I still don't know whether these are going to fit, because obviously they're very combo-based, and as I mentioned, with the whole nature of research being like the backbone of decks, it's going to make it hard to get these combos together. But again, in Inteleon engines, this seems like a very powerful effect. I think this is more likely to see play than the other one in an Inteleon style deck. And yeah, I'm pretty interested to see this. It's nice to see some of these effects coming back, but with more strict costs. Obviously, we kind of had that, like I say, with the Welcoming Lantern, but I don't feel the Welcoming Lantern has really done anything, so maybe this is the way that we get VS Seeker and Guzma back into the format. Next up, we have Battle VIP Pass. You can only use this card on your first turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Very, very powerful effect, but you can only use it on your first turn. You want to be running 4 of this card to be able to find it on your first turn, but after your first turn, these are dead weight, so you have to use at least 2 to really benefit, really feel the benefit from this card, to not be dragged down by the fact you have 2 or 3 dead cards in your deck after turn 1. I think that's going to, again, hold it back. Because you can't search them out turn 1. Obviously, again, if there was more accessible search for these in the early turns, it would feel a bit better. If you could, if you're able to use a supporter on your first turn, you could draw into these, and there would be more justification for them. But because you can only use a supporter going second, like in 50% of the games, you're gonna struggle to find them anyway. So they're actually only going to be useful in 50% of games, and then in those 50% of games you can only use them on your first turn, and I think that's enough of a convoluted stipulation to make it so that this just isn't really going to be very good. It's very flashy, and I like seeing more ball search, but not sort of in this way, because this is really high roll, and if like the person that draws this, your drawn win rate with this card will be very, very high, and it won't feel very good when your opponent just draws into multiple of these. So I don't like seeing this kind of effect, but luckily I think this line here, you can use this on your first turn, is too niche for this to see, for this to be hugely impactful, just because the dead weight isn't worth it. We're getting Ultra Ball back, we have 4 Quick Ball, in certain decks we have things like Level Ball and Fog Crystal as well. We actually don't have a terrible amount of ball search for basics. It's actually evolutions that we're struggling with more so in terms of ball search. So I don't think we really need this. I think we need more evolution search personally. Power Tablets is very similar to Electro Power. During this turn, your Fusion Strike Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Essentially, this is going to be really, this is just very, very good. Fusion Pokemon the Fusion deck looks to be kind of a toolbox archetype, hitting for different weaknesses, doing different attacks. So being able to manipulate your damage to be able to 1, get around different weaknesses that you don't have weakness on, but 2, make sure you're pushing into numbers to be able to one-shot the right Vmaxes and stuff is going to be really important. So yeah, Power Tablets looks very strong. I'm pretty sure it will be as strong as Electro Power just because of how strong the Fusion archetype looks. But obviously, Electro Power could go in multiple decks, whereas this is very limited to just Fusion Strike decks. And I don't think we're going to see any Fusion Strike or even Single Strike or Rapid Strike cards post this set. So I don't think it will be quite as strong as E-Power, but I think it still will be very strong, and potentially even a 4 of Infusion decks anyway. But I could also see this maybe dropping to a 3 count in certain situations and that kind of thing, just because it kind of is a lot more limiting into what decks it can go into. Sponge Gloves is another of these glove cards that we've seen, this one hitting water types for 30 more damage. Again, none of the gloves have really been too impactful. They've seen very, very minor play here and there for certain situations. Obviously, Suicune is doing very well at the moment, so this hits Suicune for an extra 30 damage. But that's basically it. If you need them, sure, great, whatever. But we all know what these gloves are up to now, and none of them have been hugely impressive, I don't think. Grand Bell of Remembrance is a Pokemon tool that you can only attach, or that only has an effect when it's attached to a VMAX. When the VMAX this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. It's a nice Marnie proofing kind of thing, but in general, I don't know that we have space for stuff like this. Again, I keep coming back to the Inteleon engine, but I feel like Inteleon is the backbone of a lot of engines right now, and we have so many ball search outs and stuff. It feels like the only time that these are comparable are when you want to be trying to avoid getting Marnied and KO'd in the same turn. And we have lots of ball search to find Drizzles and stuff like that anyway. So I don't know that this is ever really impactful. Plus, Tool Jammer, Tool Scrapper, also in format, so we can get around it, like opponents can get around this. And any kind of passive tools like this typically are worse than active tools because your opponent has the ability to interact with them before they trigger them. So yeah, it's a very flashy card. I don't think it will see much play at all, though. Maybe in like, I can see it in kind of some random like checkmate style decks, stuff like that, if that ever comes around again. That it feels like that kind of card. But I don't think in natural builds of decks this will be particularly powerful, because just higher counts of ball search for your Drizzles and Inteleons and higher support accounts and stuff, I think typically will do you better than trying to attach this tool. Sydney is an interesting one. It's a new supporter. Your opponent reveals their hand. Discard up to 2 in any combination of Stadiums, Special Energy and Tool cards. Very interesting card. A lot of flexibility. Stadiums, Special Energy and Tools are all key pieces that control players like to know about in terms of resource management. On top of that, they also you also get to see your opponent's hand, which is great. Because that gives you additional information as to what resources they have immediately available, perhaps going into the next couple of turns, based on what they've got in their hand already. And then, like I say, being able to disrupt some very specific pieces is nice. It's never going to be more than like a 1-of, maybe a 2-of in certain situations, but probably a 1-of. It feels like that kind of Zerosic or something style of supporter, which was only ever a 1-of, and you just kind of reuse it as and when you need it. But it does feel like a control tool, which is pretty cool. I don't think it really goes in anything else, but in control, I think it's control players are fairly happy to do this, just because it's another 1-of niche supporter that they can use on certain turns where it's going to provide some kind of level of disruption. And if nothing else, you get some hand knowledge to be able to assess what your opponent can do in the following turns, which is cool. Ellis's Sparkle is the first Fusion Strike supporter. Choose up to 2 of your Fusion Strike Pokemon. For each Pokemon you choose, search your deck for a Fusion Energy and attach it to that Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. I think this is a very strong card. Being able to get 2 free attachments from deck is very impressive. The Fusion Strike Energy is basically an Aurora Energy, so you can power up whichever attacker you need in this kind of Fusion style box deck, like I think that we're going to see. The awkward, it's a really awkward one because you want quite a high count of this card because you want to see it fairly early, but you don't want, obviously, eventually there's going to be no Fusion Strike Energy or Fusion Energy left in your deck because you can only play 4, so there's only so much you can, eventually this is just going to be sort of dead weight, but I think the effect is powerful enough for you to play 2 or 3, maybe even 3 to be honest, to try and see it in the early turns, just to give you that boost into getting attachments. To be honest, you can even play this turn 1 and start attacking with certain a couple of the Fusion Strike Pokemon, which is kind of scary, to be honest. So yeah, I think this is very powerful. I don't think it's going to be a 4-of because I think the dead weight is going to be too much, but I think playing it as like a 3-of or whatever, maybe even a 2-of, I don't know. I feel like the count's going to fall somewhere between 2 and 3 will be the sweet spot. And yeah, it's some really impressive acceleration. Maybe it's impressive enough to play 4-of, I'm not sure. We'll have to look at some of the Fusion Strike attacks just to see how useful it can be. But yeah, I think basically this can initialize a lot of turn 2 attacks very easily, especially on some of these 3 energy attackers that normally you would have to jump through hoops to find additional support for. Obviously, we can just play our supporter, get a free attachment, attach for turn. Provided we've attached turn 1 as well, we've got 3 energy, we can get going. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I think it's a very powerful supporter. Dancer lets you draw 2 cards, and if it's your first turn going second, you draw 3 more. So it's very similar to I think it was Beauty that did something specific on your first turn. Obviously, that one let you play it on your first turn going first. This one has additional benefit if you're going second. Draw 5 is pretty impressive, to be honest, but again, outside of exactly 1 turn going second, so in 50% of games, on 1 of your turns, this is a good card, and that is not worth playing in your deck, especially when even drawing 5 might be outclassed by discarding a hand and drawing 7 on turn 1 going second anyway. So yeah, it's just outclassed by research, and even if it wasn't, it still only works on one turn. So yeah. Chilli, Silent, and Cress is another Fusion Strike supporter, letting you search for up to 3 Fusion Strike Pokemon. Very nice searching because it lets you find basics, it lets you find evolutions, it lets you find tech Pokemon. Yeah, it's really, really good. It means that you can play this techie style of Fusion deck, which is pretty cool. But just being able to find your basics and your stage 1s off of one card is nice. Again, I don't know whether it'll be a 4-off, just because obviously it gets to a point where you need to be drawing cards instead of tutoring cards, but I think this potentially does justify playing it in certain situations. I don't know whether it'll just turn out that the usual Research Mani boss package and then just a load of ball search cards is better than just finding Chilli, Silent, and Cress to get your Pokemon. We'll have to test it out, have to test different engines out, but it's nice that Fusion Strike are getting this package of energy support, energy assistance, energy acceleration is what I'm trying to say, and Pokemon search specific to them. I like that. It's pushing the archetype, which looks pretty cool. Skatepark is the only stadium in the set. Whenever an active Pokemon retreats, put any basic energy you used to pay that retreat cost back into the hand instead of the discard pile. Pretty cool for just trying to get some energy back. But I think in general, things like switch counts are still going to be fairly high, I feel. Air balloons. I'd rather not have to commit energy attachments to a Pokemon to retreat it. I'd rather be able to play a balloon and commit my attachments to a no attacker. Obviously, you can get the energy back off and you can kind of leave this Pokemon with not much energy, so your opponents may be less incentivized to Gust KO it. But I think in general we need to be attaching to the Pokemon we want to be attaching to, and I feel like playing more basic energy is a better idea than playing Skatepark to try and reuse those energy, because there'll be certain situations where your Pokemon are knocked out and you don't get use out of Skatepark. There'll be situations where you have to attach energy to other stuff. Say your Crobat was gusted up, you'd have to attach an energy to Crobat to retreat it, and you'd get the energy back. But if you've been playing balloons instead, you could just have attached that energy to your attacker. So I feel like in general it's a cool stadium. It seems like a cool cube stadium in all fairness, but I think in standard you'd just rather be playing switching outs and air balloons because you need to be putting your energy where they need to be going. In general, you're never really happy putting your energy on things like Crobats and stuff to retreat them, and your main attacker, can just knock it out. And if your opponent is able to knock you out, you're not going to get the energy back, so you might as well just be running a higher energy count, if that makes sense. Then finally, Fusion Energy is the special energy of the set, Fusion Strike. It can only be attached to Fusion Strike Pokemon, and when in play it provides all energy, but only one at a time, and the Pokemon this card is attached to isn't affected by any abilities from your opponent's Pokemon. So these Pokemon can't be gusted up with Dark Signal from Umbreon. These Pokemon can't be you have damage counters placed on them with Quick Shooter. What else is there? I'm sure there's others as well. But yeah, this is kind of an additional level of protection for your Fusion Strike Pokemon, which is really cool. It's another reason why Elisa is like a really nice supporter, because it kind of pseudo protects 2 of your Pokemon in certain matchups, because you can put 2 Fusion Energy down and just stop them getting pinged, stop them getting gusted, all of that good stuff. And you don't have to worry about do I attach to this one or that one. We can just straight up attach to with the Elisa. So yeah, a very strong energy card. Obviously going to see a huge amount of play in these fusion decks, and I think Elisa pushes this even further. I do think Elisa really makes this card quite impressive as well. So onto the Pokemon. The first Pokemon I'm going to briefly look at, though, because I think it is worth looking at it first, is Mew. Basically because the whole set revolves around Mew, so I think similarly to the trainers, it's worth looking at this Pokemon early and then being able to kind of think about some of these other Pokemon based on what we know. So Mew V is a Fusion Strike V Pokemon, 180 HP Psychic type. Energy Mix is a nice little first attack. Search your deck for an energy and attach it to one of your fusion Pokemon. It doesn't have to be the Mew, it can be anything, so you don't have to necessarily sacrifice this Mew, attach a load of energy just for it to get knocked out, which is pretty cool. And then Psycho Jump lets you jump back into the deck for 2 energy. Again, nice to get out of a pinch if you need to. I think in general we're not going to be using Psycho Jump too much though. UVmax is really where it's at. 310 HP, Cross Fusion is kind of the big build around attack. Cross Fusion for 2 colorless energy. Choose an attack on one of your benched fusion Pokemon and use it as this attack. So basically, when we're looking through these cards, we're going to have to evaluate every single fusion Pokemon, see whether it's an attack that we want to maybe copy with a UVmax, and also take into account the fact that the energy cost for Vmax is 2 colorless, so there's a variety of different ways we can accelerate energy to it, and also we can play it in any type of deck and just have an additional psychic type weakness. So that's really cool. Then Max Miracle for 2 psychic energy does 130, and it's basically Shred. It goes through all effects on the opponent's active Pokemon, which is nice because just having access to a Shred attack is always very useful for things like Decidueye and Zamazenta. So yeah, spoiler alert, the Cross Fusion attack does look very strong. There's a lot of cool attacks you can copy with this. So we need to keep this card in mind when looking through each of these fusion Pokemon. I'll be pointing them out as we come to them. Weak to Dark is a little bit scary because obviously there's already a couple of decks that are weak to Dark in the format. But Path to the Peak really is keeping Eternatus at bay right now. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. Fighting Resistance is really nice. It basically means the only thing you're scared of is the Umbreons, right? And with Fusion Energy, you're not able to be gusted by Umbreons, so you can really play the game at your pace against Umbreon with the deck. So yeah, it's one weakness. It's actually not too bad of a weakness, I don't think, which is pretty cool. And then Free Retreat, again, is also very, very nice. So yeah, Mew looks to be very good. I just wanted to briefly touch on that one before we got into all of the Pokemon, because we have to keep many of these in mind when it comes to... well, we have to keep Mew in mind when it comes to looking at many of these cards. Take a swig of water, and onto the best art in this set. I will quickly point this out. Look at this Caterpie. This Caterpie looks amazing. Unfortunately, Butterfree is, again, pretty pants. Tricolor Scales, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can leave your opponent's active Pokemon burned, confused, and poisoned. Pretty strong, to be honest. Being able to give them these statuses has been good in the past, but just on a stage 2, it's not worth playing this. It's not worth the investment in the deck. Brailium is pretty pants, unfortunately, because it's a funny little Pokemon. Great art. Again, another great art. This set has fantastic art, to be honest. You have to let me know what your favourite art is down below. Maractus has Ditch and Shake, which for 2 energy does 50, and you can discard any number of tools from your hand. Unfortunately, I don't think this is ever really going to be equaling, or you're never going to be able to get enough tools in hand for this to be super consistent. We do have things like Greedent, and I think the Granville does something to do with tools as well. I think it gets 2 tools back from their discard pile, so it could be like this one prize deck, but I think we've seen from various one prize archetypes that have appeared over the past 18 months that none of these kind of archetypes are particularly good. This just feels worse than like that ball juggling deck from Vivid Voltage or whatever, say it was, Battle Stars maybe. It just feels worse than that, to be honest. I think the balls deck was better, and the tools deck seems pretty bad. Shelmet and Aselgor are our first fusion strike Pokemon. Ninja Tornado for 3 energy does 120, but if this Pokemon was promoted from the bench to the active this turn, it can only be used for a grass energy, which is interesting. I think in general, I don't think this is going to be strong enough. Being able to do 120 for 1 is nice on a stage 1, and being able to move them around would be nice, but unfortunately it would be nicer if this had Free Retreat, because you're going to still have to be paying the grass energy each time to keep this going. I just think 120 damage isn't enough right now in a format where you're playing a 90 HP stage 1. I don't think this will be quick enough. There are plenty of attacks in the fusion deck that do more than 120 damage, so we don't really want it in the fusion deck. So I think, unfortunately, Aselgor isn't going to be good enough. The attack seems really cool, but I think it's just too weak. 90 HP isn't enough, and 120 damage isn't really enough to compete these days. Virizion lets you put 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. That's some nice recovery, but in general, I don't really know where this fits. Though again, really, really great art. I knew the artist as soon as I saw it. Himeno is one of my favourite artists, and yeah, really, really, again, lovely art. Grubbin, has, again, a great art, but it's worth just quickly noting that you can attach lightning from the discard pile to this. It's worth noting this just because the Pikachuvolt has a pretty interesting attack for a lot of lightning energy, so this can kind of begin to set that up, but obviously you never really want to be in the active spot attaching energy to your 78 HP basic. Serena V is the first of the V Pokemon we've talked about other than Mew. Queen's Order for 2 energy, does 20 damage, and you discard any number of your bench Pokemon. This attack does 40 more for each bench Pokemon discarded this way. I would love this to be good. One of my favourite decks of all time was Mega Gardevoir, which essentially did something similar. It did more damage based on how many Pokemon you discarded from the bench. Unfortunately, I don't think this is good enough. We don't have great acceleration for Grass. We have things like Melanie to be able to fulfill the colourless cost, but we're not going to be able to stream these. They only have 200 HP, so you're going to need to stream them because they're not going to be living very long. And because they only have 200 HP, you have to assume they're going to be getting knocked out fairly frequently, which means you have to have one benched Pokemon, which means the most you can do with this is 180, and 2 for 180 just isn't good enough, really. It's like the typing is decent for things like Umbreon, but in general, I think it's just not quite good enough. It's really unfortunate because I love this style of attack. I think it's very, very creative, but it's just not good enough. The damage modification isn't strong enough. We also had Mega Guardi in a format where we had Skyfield, so you could build your board up even bigger, whereas this is soft capped at 220, and realistically it's soft capped at 180 because you have to have a Pokemon on your bench after you've going into your opponent's turn, because you can't really expect this to live. So yeah, really unfortunate. The effect of the attack is so cool, but the damage just isn't good enough, unfortunately. 2 more fantastic arts in Growlithe and Arcanine. Chandelier V is a really interesting one. Confuse Ray for a fire energy is nice, and then Poltergeist does for a fire and a colourless. Does 40 damage times the number of trainers your opponent reveals from their hand. So basically, Gengar Mimikyu's attack for a 10 less modifier. Still fairly decent. It can definitely still hit some decent numbers. But the real selling point of this card is basically the fact that Chandelier has the same attack, but for a 70 times modifier, and that is really impressive because 5 trainers knocks out any any Vmax, but 4 trainers and an Inteleon engine, plus like with a couple of Inteleon pings, also knocks them out. And I think 4 trainers is definitely reasonable, considering your opponent's going to be taking prizes and stuff. If they ever take prizes on a Chandelier VMAX, they're immediately drawing 3 more cards. So yeah, that seems quite impressive. We don't have the best fire acceleration right now, but we can use things like Raihan or even, again, Melanie to cover that colourless cost. I don't think Melanie is particularly good, though. I think Raihan seems pretty interesting, though. Unfortunately, we don't have great damage or hand manipulation, so we can't build people's hands up for them, which is a shame. And similarly with Marnie, that kind of will soft cap this deck's damage, because if you're mining your opponent, you're mining them to a low hand size. If they're mining you, they're going to a low hand size. So I don't think this will be sort of groundbreaking, but a 70 times modifier is very, very impressive, which is, that's quite scary. And like I say, with an Inteleon engine to try and smooth things out, it could be pretty cool. The ability also kind of ties into it as well. As long as Chandelier is reactive, your opponent can't play Pokemon tools from their hand. So that's pretty cool, because it means that any of these tool cards, which are quite popular right now, things like these tool jammers, the air balloons, all of this kind of stuff, they're just going to be trapped in the hand. And that's basically going to be buffing Max Poltergeist's damage from the offset, which is cool. Again, I don't know whether I feel like this might just be ever so slightly too weak to be able to make huge waves. It's also weak to water, which really scares me right now with Suicune being in format and being very impressive. But yeah, the damage modifier is definitely interesting, and I think it's definitely worth playing around with. I don't know whether it's going to quite make the cut, just because, like I say, it's a little bit like your opponent can, to some extent, control the damage you're doing and that kind of stuff. But like I say, just alone the 70 times multiplier is interesting. So definitely going to have a play around with this one. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to quite make the cut in general, like I say, but could be interesting. Heatmore has a very familiar attack, Inhalated Flame, which for 3 energy does 90 damage, and if this Pokemon has at least 3 extra energy attached to it in addition to the attack's cost, the attack does 180 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it's basically like a mini Tag Bolt for 6 energy. The problem is, we don't have the best ways of accelerating energy to fire types right now. You can play this as like a finisher in something like a Regidrago deck, but Regidrago has not done anything, which kind of everyone, I think a lot of people were quite excited for it, but I don't think the deck was ever really going to do anything. But Heatmore could be a nice finisher in that, because you don't need specific energy cost, you just need any additional energy. So you can play a fire, you can Raihan a fire, and then you can just attach a load of grass energy and meet the cost of this attack. So that's pretty funny. Again, obviously a bit of a meme. It's not going to be particularly impressive, but at least the Regidrago deck has a finisher now, I suppose. So yeah, pretty cool. Riorio is another Fusion Strike Pokemon. Fervent Lesson says, as long as this Pokemon is in play, your Fusion Strike Pokemon take 20 less damage from your opponent's attacks. You can't apply more than 1 of this ability per turn. This is an interesting one. The success of this card is basically going to depend exactly on where what the damage cap of the format is. So we'll have to wait and see kind of what damage settles at. This will only be good if it pushes 2 shots into 3 shots, or 1 shots into 2 shots. Probably not even. Like 1 shots into 2 shots you can manage because you have things like Inteleon and stuff, and Zigzagoon and Leon. So I think this would have to exactly push 2 shots into 3 shots. And in a format where we have 2 times weakness and stuff is doing like 250, 260, 270, it's not going to be doing enough damage. So enough damage blocking. So I don't think this is good enough. But it's a very, very splashable one card inclusion, which is nice. And obviously it then gives you access to the Passionate Drop attack with Mew, which lets you put 5 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. Not really worth the cost, but there may be certain situations where you've spread damage around, you can't find your bosses, and Passionate Drop gets you the game. It's going to be very niche, and I don't think this card is going to see play really. But obviously it's a very easily splashable one-of, so it could make certain lists here and there. And to be honest, Passionate Drop is pretty scary on things like Sobbles and stuff if you're playing an Inteleon engine as well. You're kind of not really incentivized to play Inteleons with the Mew stuff because you want fusion Pokemon on your bench rather than the Inteleon stuff. But you can see kind of the synergy there, so maybe it'll work, but I don't think it will. Starmie has Rapid Fisted Star for 1 Water Energy. That lets you discard any number of Water Energy attached to Starmie. For each one you discard, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon and do 30 damage to it. So it's like that Bronzong Break from back in the day. This is on a Stage 1 though, not a Stage 2. We have a variety of different ways of attaching Water Energy. Primarily Frostmoth with this. I can see Frostmoth kind of being the partner for this. Unfortunately, I just don't think it does enough damage. You need to have 6 energy, basically 5 or 6. You need to be discarding 5 or 6 energy to be taking 2 prizes, and that's not worth it on a 90 HP Stage 1. It's going to be hard to get those 6 energy on. You're going to need a high energy count, and you're going to be playing one of these 1 prize decks with multiple Stage 1s. That's going to be quite inconsistent anyway, so I just don't think it's really going to line up very well. The attack is really cool, but I don't think the damage is worth the payoff at all, really. It's nice being able to spread it around. Maybe in certain decks this will be used as a potential 1-1 finisher. But I think in general, it's going to be worth a lot less than the amount of effort you put into trying to set this up. We have a great new Crocodile line. Just look at how happy this little... It's not Crocodile line, for Alligator line. But yeah, these arts are, again, absolutely fantastic. Look at this for Alligator. Has the ability Berserk, which is very similar to one of the... I think it was a Neo one. That says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, during your turn, flip a coin. If heads, discard the top 5 of your opponent's deck. If tails, discard the top 5 of your deck. Obviously, not a particularly strong effect. Well, quite a strong effect if it goes to heads, but it's not the kind of effect you really want to be playing in terms of a coin flip. I think if we had some way of kind of reflipping coins for abilities, I don't think we do. I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anything. I think we only had Will and that rotated, but maybe I'm missing something. But either way, you'd have to have some kind of like coin manipulation, and even then, this is still a stage 2 that you only get to use once when you evolve it. So yeah, it's just way too cost heavy to try and get this set up, and even when you do finally get it set up, it's on a coin flip, so half the time it's not even going to be worth it, and Crunch just isn't worth it, like building around anyway. So yeah, very cool art, not a very good Pokemon. Clamperl is a Fusion Strike Pokemon that evolves into Huntail with the Single Strike Jammer ability that says as long as this Pokemon is in play, your opponent's Single Strike Pokemon require colorless more energy to use attacks. Could be pretty disruptive. It's going to be very, very... it's going to be based essentially on how strong Single Strike is in the format. Single Strike's doing really well at the moment, though. I think it's one of my favourite picks right now in terms of tournaments. And that one extra energy can force them to go for another Houndoom, which can push them into range of you KOing them. Sometimes they don't have access to extra Houndooms. There's only so many times they can use Houndoom in a turn, and sometimes that will just mean they miss their attack in general. So yeah, pretty interesting one of just spicy 1/1 line to disrupt your opponent. The really interesting thing about this, though, is we also have the Gorobas, so you can actually play this kind of 1-2 line, or maybe 2-2, but even if you really wanted to be cheeky, play a 1-2 line and just get out the Huntail or the Gorobas based on which matchup you're in. I think the Gorobas is definitely way better, though. Rapid Strike Canceller is the ability that says as long as this Pokemon is in play, your opponent's Rapid Strike Pokemon have no abilities. We've seen people playing Jolteon from, I think it was Vivid Voltage, the one where you have to attach a memory capture to it, and if you do, your opponent's water Pokemon has no abilities. That's seeing play, and that's a pretty bad card. And it's basically seeing play just because, just to stop Rapid Strikes. Now, obviously, this doesn't stop Drizzile, so your opponent can still can still play Drizziles to help get them set up, but this does stop Quick Shooting. So there is like a reason to potentially play this one now. So you just kind of have to weigh it whether you want to deal with all of the water types but have a more convoluted setup, or whether you just want to deal with Quick Shooting but have a way easier time because you just need to evolve your Clamperl. This also hits a couple of other abilities. The main one I'm thinking of is Octillery, is what the Pokemon is called, meaning that you can't search for a Rapid Strike card every turn. So yeah, really interesting stuff. I don't know whether the format is slow enough or forgiving enough to be able to play a Tech 1/1 line these days, but as much as people are going to hate me for saying it, I'm already seeing this post-rotation format forming of next September where the format slows down, we lose Research, we lose Marnie, we lose Boss, and all of a sudden the format slows down and we are able to play some of these Tech Pokemon again. And maybe it won't be good until then, and obviously there's a lot of cards between now and then that could very easily speed the format up again. I'm not sure whether the format's slow enough or forgiving enough, like I say, to be able to mess around with Huntail and Gorobas, but Rapid Strike Canceller definitely seems pretty disruptive for decks using Inteleon to leverage their damage. So yeah, definitely worth giving that one a try. Chromiable V has Overturn for 1 water energy, which discards the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Again, a nice just something to do in the early turns, which is pretty cool. I don't think this is strong enough to be able to create a mill deck around. 2 cards probably isn't enough, but in a format where you have Research and people are milling their own decks, maybe someone can create Chromiable V where they just make like a tanky Chromiable deck. Sure, maybe that's a thing. More interestingly, Fist of the Destroyer for 2 waters and a colourless. Remember, all of this stuff can be powered by Melanie, so it makes the cost slightly easier. Fist of the Destroyer does 90 damage and 60 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's basically a Sableye, but way better. You have an 80 base addition. Instead of doing the 10 base, you're doing 90 base, so you have an 80 damage extra for 1 more energy. So that's way nicer. It means that you probably have like 2 less damage counters maybe that you need to put on your opponent's Pokemon to be able to one-shot them, which is cool. It's going to be quite hard to stream these because of the 3 energy cost, though. And the fact that it's weak to metal is really scary because Zacian still seems incredibly strong right now, and I don't see anything changing that really. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to stream these. I think we've seen some success from like Sableye since Raihan was released, and basically that success is off the back of Raihan being able to set up a Sableye in one turn, in my opinion at least. And you can't do that with Chromiable. You need to have an energy on the board already, which is a lot more difficult. So I don't think this is quite going to be good enough. And I think this kind of archetype will still be a Sableye style deck, even with the plus 80 damage on Fist of the Destroyer. I don't think the extra energy cost is going to be particularly easy to get, and because of that, I don't think it's quite going to be good enough. I'm trying to think whether there's any reason to play this other than that over Sableyes, but I don't think there is. Like, Melanie is obviously the biggest one, and Melanie is great acceleration, but it's still only 2 energy per turn. So yeah, pretty unfortunate. Pikamuku has the Pikamuku Fling ability that says once during your turn, if this is in your hand, you can put it onto the bottom of your deck and then draw a card. Again, I don't think this is going to be particularly useful. You can only play one of these ability per turn, so you can't even like just use them to cycle through the deck. So I'm pretty sure, like, this is one of those cards where maybe everyone plays it as a one-off because it's just a 50, like, it just makes you have 59 cards in your deck. But yeah, I'm not sure. You never want to search for this. You never want to start with it. If you ever start with it, you've basically like screwed yourself over, right? Because you can't use the ability without recovering it, and you're not starting a good starter in your deck. So that alone is probably enough for the card to potentially not see play. But it's one of those where I feel like I could just be evaluating it completely wrong, and because it's a card that lets you only play 59 cards in your deck, and in most situations that can be advantageous, maybe everyone just puts one Pikamuku into the deck. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's bad though. Next up we have an absolutely fantastic Snom. Look at that. There are so many good arts in this set. Similarly with the Frostmoth. Amazing art. Blizzard Loop isn't worth talking about really though. Helioptile, again, amazing art. He looks a bit grumpy, but he's just absorbing the sun, bless him. And again, Heliolisk, not particularly viable. But, again, beautiful art. Pikachuvolt, I mentioned earlier on, has the Electric Blaster attack for 4 energy. Discard 2 Lightnings, and this does 200 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That's a big snipe. 200 damage is a lot. That's knocking out all of the things like Crobats, Crickettunes, all of that stuff, but it's also knocking out some Evolving V Pokemon, which is cool. Again, it's on a stage 2, so it's not worth it, but it's a big snipe, and I'm sure someone will play around with it. So yeah, it's not worth it. I will say that outright now. Please don't play around with it for too long, but 200 is a lot of damage. Especially on a one prizer. They always do this with Pikachuvolt. They always give it massive damage for some reason. I'm not really sure why. We have a new Bolton V, and again, looks amazing. Bolton is a 200 HP lightning type, with Smash Turn as the first attack. For a lightning, does 30 and lets you switch to the bench. Nice for protecting yourself. I don't really know what you want to put forward in these days. I don't know what the deck would be. I feel like I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really know what this Bolton deck, like what deck this Bolton would be in. I can see a Bolton deck potentially, but I think you'd be playing the Rebel Clash Bolton, and if you're not, I don't know what you're playing with this Bolton, so I don't know what you want to Smash Turn into. So it's a nice attack to protect yourself, sure, but I don't know what you're going into. Maybe this would be like a one-of in the Bolton deck, probably. And then Electro Bullet for 2 energy, 2 lightning and a colour, so there's 120 and a 30 snipe. Again, that's actually not terrible. That's just, spreading some damage. Fairly efficient. There'll be certain situations where this will get you a couple of knockouts, so that's pretty cool. Nothing like amazing, nothing to write home about, but can at least finish stuff off and also set stuff up. And then Bolton Vmax basically has the attack of Bolton V. Lightning Storm does 30 plus 30 for each lightning attached to all of your Pokemon. Obviously, Bolt Storm does 10 plus 30, so this has a little bit of a buff on Bolt Storm. And I think actually it can get into pretty scary numbers. We have Flaffies and stuff. I actually think Bolton potentially is just better than Ray Vmax, which is funny. Because it's just like you don't have to find the awkward different costs. You can have your energy attached to the bench. You're not losing your energy and your damage output every turn. Once it's on the board, it's staying on the board. And if your opponent's gusting up your what you're putting energy on, they they're not gusting, they're not dealing with your Bolton, that kind of thing. So yeah, Bolton Lightning Storm seems really cool. I actually do like the sound of this archetype, to be honest. I was a bit skeptical to start with, but the more I think about it, the more it seems pretty cool. You can also play things like there's like the Zekrom and the Regieleki, and all of these different one prizes to kind of play like a lightning box that we thought potentially could happen with Flaffy. I'm pretty sure me and Jared didn't think it would go anywhere, but we said lightning box could be a thing. Now it feels like you can just play Bolton Flaffy and play some of these 1/0 attackers in it and get away with like using those certain attackers in the situations based on like their different breakpoints of damage and stuff like that. So yeah, this deck seems really cool. Again, it's 2 stage 1s, so I'm not super convinced it's going to be good, just because it sounds clunky and we have no com. But being able to Lightning Storm on something that's bulkier than a Rebel Clash Bolton seems cool. Obviously, weak to fighting is a bit scary, especially with the rise of Single Strike right now, and Rapid Strike still feels like it's always lurking in the shadows, ready to go. So that's a bit scary, but regardless, seems like it could be could have some potential. And then we have Max Bolt just for 3 energy, just 240. Sorry, just 230. Looks like they've slightly misnumbered this here. It does 230, but again, that's just nice solid damage. If you're not able, like in the early turns when you're building up your board for Lightning Storm, you can just be using Max Bolt to just get a lot of damage on the board and apply pressure early. So yeah, I'm actually really interested in this archetype. I'm not convinced it's going to be great, but I think I'm going to play around with it. It seems like fun, if nothing else, and it seems more fun than Ray, which is cool. Toxicity is another Fusion Strike Pokemon with the Max Downer ability. This ability only works if all of your Pokemon are Fusion Pokemon. As long as this Pokemon is in play, the HP of your opponent's Vmax Pokemon is 30 less. This stacks, so if you have 4 Toxicity on the board, your opponent's Vmax Pokemon have 120 less HP. That's pretty insane, especially when you factor in you can also play the Power Tablet card, to increase your damage. Reducing their health plus increasing your damage means that you're going to be one-shotting Vmaxes fairly easily with the deck if you go down the Toxicity route. I don't think this is the route you want to go down because it's a stage 1 that doesn't really do anything. But I think there will be builds that try and play around with this, and there will be certain situations where you just are able to be more efficient than your opponent because you're taking 3 prizes on like a 240 HP Pokemon rather than a 330 HP, so you can actually one-shot them, whereas they can't one-shot you. But I think in general, it's not really worth playing. It's kind of similar to that Riorio, right? If the 30 damage turns a 2-shot into a 1-shot, then maybe it's worth it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna sneeze. No, I'm not. Maybe I am. Yeah, if it turns the 30 damage, if 30 damage turns it from a 2-shot into a 1-shot, maybe it's worth it. But I think rarely it's going to be 30 damage. You're more likely to need 2, and then you're playing at least a 2-2 line, probably a 3-3 line to be consistent, and all of a sudden that's 6 cards trying to get this ability to work. And I'm going to say I think there will be, at the moment we're seeing a fair few non-Vmax decks as well as Vmax decks. I think there'll be another one coming out of this set, and again, that will just mean that this won't affect that deck. So yeah, I'm not convinced on this ability yet. It's pretty cool, it's quite funny, but I don't think these successful builds of Fusion Strike will be playing Toxicity in the end. Jinx is pretty pants. We've taken a look at Mew already. Granville has the Grasp ability that says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may put up to 2 Pokemon tool cards from your discard pile into your hand. So yeah, this was the one that you play with the Maractus. You can see the deck, you can see how it works, you can see it's probably not going to be as consistent as various other decks, but this is the kind of arbitrary 1 prize archetype they always force on us in each set. It's going to be Pokemon tools from the discard, or tools in the discard pile kind of synergies, which is interesting. Galarian Cursola is one that I think a lot of people are talking about. Compulsory Restoration says put a basic V Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto the bench, then put damage counters onto that Pokemon until the remaining HP is 30. That potentially is very strong. We have a variety of different gusting options for this. So we have Boss, we have the new Guzma catchers, but we also have Toy Catcher, which was released in Evolving Skies that everyone thought was completely pants. Well, it turns out you can Toy Catcher up something that has only 30 HP left, so you can still, you can boss, or you can gust plus use a supporter if you want to do that, which is interesting. We'll talk about a card later on, Bolton Vmax, that potentially is a partner for this. I think that's going to be the only part that that this deck has, and I'm not even convinced that deck will be good. But it's worth noting that deck will have two lines of play. It will have the line of play where you're trying to KO things like Crobats, but in the that seems like quite a solid plan. When I get to the card, it will make more sense. But essentially, you take extra prizes. So similar to how ADP used to take 2 prizes and convert them into 3 prizes, Greedent takes a 2 prizer and converts into 4 prizes. So you can go for a Crobat normal KO and then a Crobat Greedent KO for 6 prizes. But not many decks are playing, or not a huge amount of decks are playing Crobat right now. Crobat's kind of gone to the mist. There's a lot of Path to Peak being played. There's a lot of decks that just aren't playing it. So because of that, you won't always be able to kind of feast on Crobats like that. Any evolving V is going to be able to evolve out of this, and even if they evolve and they like gain 100 HP, it still might put them out of range. I don't know what you want to pair with Cursola if it's not Greedent. To be doing like 130 damage, 140 damage, probably for 1 or 2 energy consistently. I don't know what that would be paired with, so I think the only deck that Cursola goes in is this Greedent deck that tries to feast on Crobats and non-evolving Vs, and I don't know how many of those there are going to be, and I think in general the deck will be inconsistent anyway, so I think the deck will be fairly pants, but it will be a lot. There'll be a lot of stream highlights of it, I'm sure, and I'm sure we'll try and build it as well and play it on tabletop and stuff. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be powerful enough, and I think that's the only place where Cursola will go, unfortunately. Very interesting attack, potentially very scary, but I think it's kept in check just by the way the format has gone and the fact that VMAXs aren't particularly, or are still pretty good right now. Obviously, there are some of these things like Suicune and Zacian you can still do quite similar things on. You can still take 4 prizes on them, but it's going to be harder to take those extra 2 prizes. So yeah, this all makes sense in my head, and when we get to Greedent, I will explain more. But yeah, a really interesting attack. I don't think it's good enough to see play, but definitely a fun meme deck for sure. Deoxy is an interesting one. It has Fusion, Single, and Rapid Strike, all 3 of them. And it has Photon Burst for 80 damage, and it says if the Pokemon has Fusion Energy attached, it does 80 more. So it's 160 for 3. Definitely worth noting that this is 160 for probably 160 for 2 in the Mew deck, which can just be nice, efficient damage for 2. Again, there are a variety of attacks that just do similar damage, pretty much uncontested. So I don't think it is necessarily great in the Fusion deck. Obviously, because you have Single Strike and Rapid Strike tags as well, you can play Rapid Strike Energy with this, and Single Strike Energy as well, so you can manipulate the damage, you can accelerate to this. And it's a really cool card. I don't see how it fits into the format very well. You're very limited in the amount of energy you have. You're very limited in the fact you're a 1 prizer, so you have low HP, so you're going to need to consistently set these up, and you're going to need to be attaching a Fusion Energy from hand every turn, or at least like Elisa and stuff. So I'm really not sure, like, how this fits in. I don't think it's good enough just because we don't have any great energy recovery for Fusion Energy and Single and Rapid Strike Energy. Well, we do for Single Strike, but I don't think you're playing many Single Strike. I think in general, maybe it's like I don't know. Maybe I do need to build this. It's like you can, because it has all 3 of these battle styles, you really can't build anything around it. You can play around with Rapid Strike stuff. You can play around with Houndooms. You can just, there's a lot you can do with it. I don't think it's going to be good enough. I'm pretty certain that it's not going to be good enough. I feel fairly confident in saying that, but I have convinced myself enough to try it again, like to try building this again, because just being able to like 160, 180-ish on a 1 prizer isn't terrible. And how the payoff just isn't there. Yeah, this isn't good enough. The payoff isn't there. It took me a minute, but yeah, I don't think the payoff is there. Maybe someone will build a really broken deck with this, but I'm pretty sure the payoff just isn't good enough. like 80 base is so weak if you don't have the fusion energy. And if you have the fusion energy, you have to be attaching fusion from hand, which means you can't be attaching rapid strike from hand, or you have to use Elixir. And if you're using Elixir, you're not using boss or research or anything to accelerate your board state. So yeah, it's very flashy, but it's not good enough. Munna and Mashana again have great arts, but not anything particularly interesting. Meleta is a really interesting one that I think a lot of people potentially glossed over. Melodious Echo does 70 damage times the number of fusion energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So obviously you can only have 4 fusion energy in general. But if you have all 4 out, that's 280 damage. And 280 is a lot, especially when you're able to copy it with Mew. Mew copying 280 is pretty scary, to be honest. And the fact that we have a way of accelerating the energy onto the board with Elixir means that you could potentially be doing 280 from turn 2. Because you can attach a fusion turn 1, turn 2 you can attach another fusion, use Elixir to attach the 2 from the deck, and be doing 280 turn 2 with a Mew VMAX. Or even a LOS, to be honest. So that's pretty scary. Obviously, this will be limited by prizes, this will be limited by how many you draw, how many you have to discard, this, that, and the other. But as a finisher in the fusion deck, it does seem like it has potential. I'm pretty sure it just won't see the mark, just because it means that you have to be very, very precautious with your fusion energy, and you can't attach them to your active Pokemon very often because you need them to be on the board to be able to use the attack for high damage in the late game. But I think it will definitely be worth testing out. And again, it's another of these splashable kind of fusion attackers that could just end up in the deck the same way as the Oricorio could. Just because the payoff for this card is pretty cool. I don't think it's ever really worth building around or anything, and we don't have any recovery for the fusion energy, so that's not great, but it could be in certain situations a nice finisher for the deck, which is cool. Dragapal is pretty pants. It has Fusion Assault, which is 30 for each of your fusion Pokemon in play. I feel like if there is ever going to be a deck with this will be like it'll be like 4-core Dragapult, and then I guess like you wouldn't want to play Toxicity with this, I don't think, because you're already playing a stage 2. So I feel like you're going to have to play like the Oricorio and something with it, just to maybe like the Huntail, the Clamperl stuff. I don't know. I don't know what fusion Pokemon you want on your bench is the difficult thing. So yeah, it's a tough one. Maybe Toxicity, like you just have to accept the Clunk and you play Toxicity, but I don't see how we can without Calm and stuff like that. And you can't even play like Inteleon engines to smooth the curve out because they're not fusion Pokemon. So yeah, I don't think this is good enough. I think this is pretty bad, unfortunately. Golem has Desperate Bomber that says that deals 10 damage counters to the attacking Pokemon when this gets knocked out. Unfortunately, it's on a stage 2, so it's never going to be relevant. Steelix has Power Rage, which is 20 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. It has 190 HP, which is mental. Obviously, if this manages to take a hit, you can then do huge damage with Power Rage. But again, in general, it's a stage 1 that's, I don't think, really going to be worth the time you put into it. We have a variety of different fighting type decks that are just better than this. We might even have one prize fighting decks that are better than this in like the Galarian Zapdos and stuff. But yeah, this might be a fun one, but I don't think it's particularly competitive. Phalanx has Formation's Edge, which does 60 plus 160 if your opponent has exactly one prize card remaining. Basically, this has to take a knockout because otherwise your opponent's going to be knocking you out and winning the game because you only have 90 HP and they only have one prize left. So this has to literally take a knockout. And even then, it means your opponent, you have to find and attach, or you have to attach 3 energy to it in a turn. Or at least set it up over multiple turns, which just isn't worth it. So yeah, cool attack. I like these prize-based attacks, but it's just not worth it on this one prizer. On this attack if they only have one prize left, because if you're not winning, you're losing, and it's not worth it trying to invest into this. It's going to be hard to set up anyway. Obstagoon has Shush, which stops one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. You choose an attack and they can't use it. Unfortunately, we have so many switch outs that that's never really going to be relevant. Merciless Strike does 150 if your opponent's active Pokemon already has damage counters on it. 1 for 150 is obviously insane, but again, it's a stage 2, so unfortunately it's going to be very, very inconsistent. Maybe like it synergizes really well with the other Obstagoon and the Zigzagoons and stuff like that, and maybe it's like a decent like tempo 1 prize kind of deck that we've seen. Some of the Charizard decks have been in the past and stuff like that. Decks that you know, have low energy cost for high damage for what they are, but unfortunately this will always be held back by the fact it's a stage 2. Garbodor and Mandibuzz are pretty pants. Hooper is very cool. I've chatted about this one a lot. Hooper is a Dark-type fusion Pokemon. It has the ability Double Face that says as long as this Pokemon is in play, it's both Psychic and Dark-type. So this can be played in Eternatus because it is a Dark-type, and it's only a Psychic-type when it gets into play. But because it is still a Dark-type, it doesn't stop Eternatus' ability. I'm pretty sure it's how it's been ruled in Japan, which is great. Unfortunately, Eternatus is nowhere to be seen right now because of Path of the Peak, and this doesn't help the Path of the Peak issue. So this probably won't be particularly impactful in Eternatus. However, Shadow Impact does 170, which is a great number for Mew VMAX to copy because 170 times 2 is 340, which one-shots everything. So this is going to be a really nice just flat damage attack for the Mew to use, which is great. Similarly, it's a nice just it's just 2-shotting attack. You have to put 3 damage counts on one of your Pokemon, but that's not too much of an issue. I don't think. There'll be certain situations where it'll be awkward, and we obviously, again, Urshifu lurks in the shadows, so it's still a bit scary putting damage on your own bench for them to potentially take advantage of. But regardless, it's just a very nice, efficient attacker. Yeah, unfortunately, because Eternatus is non-existent right now because of Path, it's going to be hard to fit this into that. But if Eternatus does come back, if Path drops in play and Eternatus starts to come back, that's when the Rapid Strike Urshifu potentially starts to come back. And Hooper is fantastic for dealing with both Single Strike and Rapid Strike Urshifu. So yeah, it's a very, very strong attacker. And it hits 2 great types right now. It hits Dark type and Psychic type for weakness. So yeah, very, very strong card. Very splashable in Eternatus. Honestly, still, I think it might even be worth playing some Dark Energy in the Mew deck, just because you want to be able to hit Dark types for weakness as well. Opposing Mews, Shadow Riders, all of that good stuff. So yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, very strong card. Excadrill is pretty pants. Durant is pretty pants. Genesect is arguably my favourite card in the set. It's another fusion Pokemon, and again, this is going to be the one that fills your bench because Fusion System says once during your turn, before you attack, you may draw cards from your deck until the number of cards in your hand equals the number of fusion Pokemon you have in play. Say you have 6 fusion Pokemon in play. Even that's like, okay, let's say you have 5 fusion Pokemon in play. I think that's realistic. You have like 2 or 3 Genesects, a Hooper, 2 Mews. Let's say 2 Genesects, a Hooper, 2 Mews. Both of your Genesects, say, draw until you have 5 cards in hand, essentially. That's really strong because it means you're not too fussed by money. You can play things like Quick Balls and all of that stuff to thin the hand down and draw more cards. You can do this more than once. It's on a basic. That's insane. And that's like a fairly nice estimate. If you have 3 Genesects out with 6 Pokemon on board, you can draw until you have 6 in hand 3 times, once like during your turn. There's no limit on how many times you can use Fusion System as far as the translations go. This could be mistranslated, but we're pretty sure that we've had this translation for like 2 months now. It's insane. It's really, really strong. It's better than Zacian in the Fusion decks, which is crazy because Zacian is like one of the best cards ever printed. In the Fusion decks, it's pretty much better than Zacian in a lot of situations. You draw more cards, you don't end your turn, you can use it multiple times, and there's benefits for playing fusion cards. So yeah, very, very cool. And I think this is going to be the backbone of this Mew sort of fusion box deck. But also, I think Genesect might be strong enough to even just be its own deck, and playing Genesect with things like Zacian and even Bronzong and just the metal stuff. Probably not Bronzong actually, but like the metal stuff, Zacian, Zamazentas. You have the Saucers. Just playing Genesects just to play Genesects seems really, really strong. Being able to Fusion System, drawing loads of cards, it just seems very, very good. I'm pretty excited for this card. I think it looks very good. I don't know, maybe I'm overhyping it, but I think the card seems monstrous, to be honest. This amount of draw power, pretty much uncontested multiple times per turn, is very scary. So yeah, and even then the Technoblast is still a good attack as well. Technoblast for 3 energy does 210, and this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. We've seen that this text barely matters because Zacian's a thing. 210 is still great damage. It lets you one-shot a lot of Evolving Vs, but not all of them. But you can even play this with like an Inteleon engine to help smooth out your curve as well. So you can be drawing cards, you can be finding Inteleon pieces you need, you can be buffing up the damage you're doing with the Inteleon pings. It just seems really, really cool. And you can also copy this with Mew, just to be doing a flat 210 with Mew, which obviously this is great for two-shotting, but can't quite one-shot the Evolving Vs, whereas there'll be certain situations where this can one-shot Evolving V Pokemon, which is great. So yeah, Genesect, I think, is, for me, the strongest card in the set, my favourite card in the set. We also have the Power Tablets, of course, as well, to manipulate the damage and push this even further. So yeah, Genesect seems absolutely bonkers. I'm really quite scared of this card, but I'm very excited to be playing with it. I know people are going to be angry that it's a basic Pokemon, this, that, and the other, but yeah, I'm really excited. Togedemaru has everybody roll out. Not particularly relevant, but we don't know how good this deck is. Pretty sure the deck isn't very good. We haven't had the cards yet, so we don't know how good the deck is, quote unquote. And this now hits another type for weakness in the everybody rollout deck, so that's cool, I guess. Melmetal is immune to Pokemon with abilities on the use of Ingot Swing, but you don't really want to be setting up and using Ingot Swing. It's a lot of cost on a stage 1 prizer, and there are a fair few Pokemon out there that don't have abilities right now that will get around this, so that's not great. Corviknight is a stage 2 and pretty pants. Latias is another fantastic fusion Pokemon. It has the ability Red Assist, which is just quickly worth noting, that lets you attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your Latios in play. Obviously Latios and Latios has the same ability as well, so they both kind of power each other up. But Dyna Barrier is the reason why this card is worth looking at. 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Vmax. Obviously, Latias, that's a horrible attack cost, but imagine copying this with a Mew. All of a sudden this is 2 colorless energy. Yes, it's only 70 damage, but there's going to be a huge amount of Vmax matchups where you just immediately become immune next turn. And if you become immune, your opponent has to boss around you. If you've got Gust around you, they pretty much have to boss because you can fusion energy your bench stuff, so they can't Umbreon around you. They can't Inteleon ping you and stuff because you have fusion energy on them. It seems really, really scary. Like, your opponent basically has to be finding boss every turn. Admittedly, Dyna Barrier isn't doing much in terms of aggression, but in combination with the Power Tablet plus some of the other attacks, like the Genesect attack and stuff, we can easily make this 2-shot stuff. We can Dyna Barrier into KO, or we can just Dyna Barrier with a couple of E-powers and stuff, fusion powers, Power Tablets, to be KOing certain, or hitting certain breakpoints here and there on Psychic Weak Pokemon or 1 prizes, this, that, and the other. So yeah, Dyna Barrier seems, again, very strong for the deck. I think this is going to be like a 2-of in the deck. It's going to be that strong. There'll be certain attackers which are just 1-off splashables, but I think Latias seems like it could be strong enough to be a 2-of, just because becoming immune to all VMAXs, forcing your opponent to find Gust every turn, seems really annoying. We've seen how good Zamazenta is. Obviously, Zamazenta can get around with ability lock. This you can't. Your opponent has to have either Shred or Gust to get around this if they're playing a VMAX deck. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. And I think this seems like a great fit into the Mew deck. Latios, on the other hand, again, it does 210 damage. We can copy it, but we can copy a variety of other 210 damage Pokemon. So it's not really worth playing. Goodra has the Slimy Room ability that says, as long as this Pokemon is in the active, when your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their Pokemon, they must first flip a coin. If tails, that energy is discarded without being attached. From what I understand, your opponent is allowed to try attaching again. This doesn't count as their attachment per turn. It only counts as their attachment per turn when the card is actually attached. So they can carry on going. But unfortunately, regardless, it's still... it's a pretty annoying ability. And and it's the kind of ability that like I could see working in like a format where again things felt a bit slower, but it feels like because this has to be in the active, you're going to have to probably get multiple setup potentially. I don't think this is really going to be very good. It seems like a great meme, but I don't think it's going to be very good. It feels a bit like that Dusk Noir from what set was it? Was it Vivid Voltage maybe, or Battle Styles? I don't know. The one that changes all special energy into colours. It feels like one of those kind of stage 2s with a really cool effect, and in certain situations maybe it'll be splashable here and there. This one feels like it will be splashable in control decks. Maybe people will try like a 101 line in control decks. Just to try and help with the energy disruption. Obviously, it can be gusted around, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, this is a very, very cool ability, but I don't think it's going to really be too useful outside of maybe certain control archetypes. So yeah, Dunsparce gives colourless Pokemon no weakness, not really relevant. Trash Sketch on Smeargle is an interesting one. Choose up to 2 Fusion Strike trainer cards from your discard pile, show them to your opponent and put them into your hand. Now, this can get combinations of Cross Receiver and Cross Switcher, which is very interesting because it means that you have a way of reusing these cards. Can this be like a control archetype where you just have so many outs to gust through Cross Receiver and Cross Switcher that eventually your opponent just runs out of cards? Potentially. I can see it. The thing that scares me is things like Urshi and stuff. Already playing a lot of switching outs and stuff, being able to take multiple prizes here and there will be awkward. 2, Inteleon really scares me because obviously Smeargle, like this whole deck is kind of gust and trap something. But with the amount of Inteleons around right now, Smeargles will be knocked out across 2 turns just by Inteleons without the opponent even attacking. And in the turns where they are allowed to attack, they can potentially be taking prizes on multiple Smeargles at once, which is scary. So yeah, that's a bit of a worry. But being able to get very powerful trainers back is interesting. I don't think either of the supporters are really worth getting back. Maybe like the Silent one is if you need more fusion Pokemon. I don't really know. I don't really see that working though. I think this is exclusively going to be getting back the Cross Receiver and Cross Switcher. But maybe there's enough of that backbone to build a control deck around it, enough disruption to eventually run your opponent out of resources, and then eventually you just have enough Cross Receiver and Cross Switcher to lock them out of the game. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Smeargle seems very interesting, and the art is absolutely amazing. I love this art. Another Arita art, which is just incredible. Yeah, this is again one of my favourite arts of the set. Just absolutely stunning. And yeah, potentially very interesting. I'm not very good at building control decks, so I can't see how this deck would be built outside of the like Gust and Trap kind of situation. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether Gust and Trap can work. The Delcatty is again pretty pants, unfortunately. You can put a card from the bottom to the bottom of their deck, which is pretty poor. Bunnelby again is another great art. Look at how happy he is, and the moon is just beautiful. But Diggersby is pretty trash. Again, great art there. Look at him just looking off into the valley over at the sunset. Great news. And then finally, I think this is the final Pokemon. Oh, there's a Rookity and a Corvisquire that again are pretty poor. Greedent V and Greedent Vmax though are the last Pokemon to take a look at. Greedent V, nothing too impressive. 40 and paralysis on a coin flip can be disruptive, but nothing major. Greedy Fangs does 120 and draws 3. That's not bad, to be honest. Drawing 3 is nice, and this sets up quite nicely for Max Greed with a powerful colourless on both of those. Would push to 320, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, nothing amazing. Again, weak to fighting. Both of these are weak to fighting, so that's worth noting. A little bit scary. The big talk about attack here is big stocks on Greedent Vmax. Big stocks for 2 colours energy, just 30 damage. And if your opponent's active basic Pokemon is knocked out by this damage from this attack, take 2 more prize cards. So what I was mentioning with the Cassola was essentially you, in the early turns, you basically build up to max greed. You attach a powerful colourless energy. You boss up a Crobat. You KO it with 180. with max greed plus powerful colourless. You draw some cards, this, that and the other. Great news. You've taken 2 prizes. Then, in the mid-game, you Cursola. You Cursola that Crobat back onto the board. It has 30 HP. It can't evolve. There's not really any great ways of healing it right now. And then the following turn, you can use Toy Catcher, you can Greed and VMAX, you can Big Stocks, and you can take 4 prizes on the other Crobat, and you've taken 6 prizes. That sounds great. That sounds like a very, very nice prize map. It seems pretty cool. A couple of issues, though. One, there's not a huge amount of decks playing Crobat right now. Some are, but some aren't. And obviously, any deck that doesn't play it down immediately, it means that you have to find your first 2 prizes elsewhere. If they never discard it, you can't get it back. So that's kind of awkward. Secondly, any evolving V Pokemon you can't really do the strategy with because Big Stocks won't take the extra prizes. Yes, you can max greed them for the KO for the 3 prizes, but that's a little bit more convoluted, and you still need, like, it's just worth 2-shotting it with a different deck at that point. It's not worth going through the Cursola into the Greedent style line. You might as well just go for one or the other. Or you might as well just go for an attack that just 2 shots VMAXes. And thirdly, basically any V Pokemon that you want to do this on has to have 180 HP. If it has 210, Max Greed won't be knocking it out for the first 2 prizes. You'll still get the final 2 prizes from Big Stocks, but you can't get the first 2 prizes from Max Greed. So, you can get the final 4 prizes from Big Stocks, but you can't get the first 2 prizes from Max Greed, which is unfortunate. And that alone, I think, makes the deck kind of meme tier. One big thing is Big Stocks does 30 with a couple of Inteleon pings. You can be carrying Sobbles for 3 prizes. So there will be certain situations where maybe it turns out this deck isn't based on trying to take 2 and 4. It's trying to do what ADV did and take 3 and 3 on like 2 Sobbles or a Sobble and a Drizzle, that kind of thing. Which is interesting. It still seems quite clunky, quite difficult to do. And I don't think this deck will push past meme tier. But Big Stocks has a huge attack effect, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see whether anyone can make Big Stocks work. I'm not convinced Cursola is the way forward. I think it looks like it's just going to be kind of a highlight reel meme deck. But I do get the prize map, and honestly the prize map does seem quite appealing. It just really depends on how many VMAX decks are out there, and how many Crobat Vs are out there, and how many targets we have for Cursola. But yeah, that's the set. The set seems very interesting. Like I said, my favourite card is probably the Genesect. I think the card seems absolutely bonkers, and I'm excited to get testing with it. Not going to be testing for a little while yet, but pretty excited to start in a month or so's time. Let me know down below, one, what your favourite art is. There are some absolutely fantastic arts in this set. Just like scrolling through now, there are some incredible ones. Plus your favourite card competitively, let me know it all down below. I'm sure there'll be things that I've missed here and there. So yeah, let me know what your favourites are. And other than that, I'll leave the link to the English scans down in the description so you can get testing early if you want to try stuff out. Make sure you let us know how you're getting on. If you do start testing, we love to hear it all. And yeah, other than that, I've been Jack from Omnipoke. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in another video. Cheers, everyone.